going to do now the Taurus Sun, Aries Moon in our 144 series, but it's really 12 to the third power, and we're covering all 1,728 dominant personalities in astrology. If you would ever like to do a consultation with me or chat with me anytime, you can find me at rotation411.com. I'm Madeline Marie. You can chat with me. And also, I do full birth charts and synastry composites. I can tell you all about your love life. I work for 5 different psychic networks. If you want to find out how I've broken down these videos, you can go back and look for the introductory video. And I'll be doing playlists of all the videos. So let's jump right into it. Taurus, it represents the second house. It's ruled by Venus. So some of the best singers, because the second house rules the voice and Taurus rules the neck, are Adele and Barbara Streisand even. This is the way we voice things, the way not only like Aries where we voice, like a baby what we want, but kind of the same way. Instead of it being all about us like Aries, it's us voicing what we want. Now we're sort of in that next stage after infancy, like a toddler and its terrible twos, like I want this and no. And Taurus is a very stubborn sign, so we're talking about Taurus, the sun sign, and Aries in the moon with Taurus. And then we'll go into how this plays out with all 12 rising signs. Alright, so here we go. Taurus Sun, like I said, I gave you a little brief description. It's ruled by Venus, so it loves luxury and comfort. Taurus is, like I say this about Leo and Taurus, but in different ways. Taurus is the king or the queen of the couch. You can often find them napping for long periods of time. They could pretty much sleep anywhere, but they prefer their couch. And they are the most stubborn sign when it comes to, they won't change their mind no matter how compelling your argument. Although do feel flattered if they come to you for advice, which they may do if you're an Aries. And I can't remember the wording of it right now, but there are different angles in astrology, and here with Aries and Taurus, they're right next to each other. I cannot remember what that angle is called, but I have found that signs that are next to each other, as different as they may be, they still have similarities, and they are in odd ways compatible. So you have this complementary thing going on with a Taurus Sun and an Aries Moon. Now Aries is all about the self, and not selfish though. I would almost say Taurus could, don't sound biased here, be slightly more selfish in the fact that they are a fixed sign and they're immovable, and they kind of stay where they're at and they're not moving for anyone, where Aries is sort of always moving forward, and whatever the motives are, they may be moving forward to help someone. But Tauruses can be helpful, but they tend to be a little bit more selfish in my opinion. And it kind of is funny coming from me and Aries. So what happens when these two come together in a dominant placement? Well, we also have to remember that the sun is the personality. So this Taurus is kind of, meandering around, and they like luxury, and they like rich foods, and they like cute clothes, and it's Venus, and they may have beautiful voices or admire the arts and beauty because it's Venus, But then we have the moon, which is the moods, the home, the habits, the domestic relationships. So here with Aries, it's going to be still a very independent type of person. They will be responsible in the home, an Aries moon. They'll take care of the home. When they're younger, it could be a little rougher. They probably, an Aries moon is a little bit more rebellious when they're young, but when they get older, they usually tend to find, especially in the moon placement, a sense of responsibility. And as I said before, Aries in the moon placement is sort of like a smoldering fire, like a fireplace. It's a little more peaceful than the sun, which is kind of a trailblazer. So you put that with Taurus, this nice warm, cozy fireplace, and Taurus is just gonna curl up on the couch next to the fire, and it's kind of like Taurus is, the sun is sort of protected by this Aries moon. And this Aries can be quite stubborn too when they want something. So this could make a stubborn personality, even a feisty one, because that Aries moon is still going to be easily agitated or ready to fight or argue. But it's almost, I mean, you never would want to get into a deep discussion with this person, because that Taurus person is never going to change their mind, and Aries has that fire to back it up. But the thing about the moon is that you don't really know somebody's moon until you like live with them, or you have an intimate relationship with them, or maybe a roommate possibly, or close working relationships too. But so what's going to happen here is you probably aren't going to see the Aries side of this person too much, because Taurus is pretty reserved and they're slow moving and they're kind of nappy, and the Aries side isn't going to come out. But if you poke the bear, if you poke this Taurus, or you think that you're going to get one over on them, which you probably wouldn't think with the Taurus Sun, because they are fixed, and you can just see that they kind of have whatever territory they have as a fixed sign locked in. And so you would probably, if you're most signs, work around the Taurus. You know, it's not too hard as long as they're not standing in your way, and especially if you're an Aries. But if you ever do come head to head with this Taurus with an Aries moon, they will battle you. They could actually potentially be violent, and you probably wouldn't expect that from this charming, Venusian, kind of relaxed Taurus. But this could be one of the, I would say out of all of the moons, this is the one Taurus that you don't want to mess with. And this Taurus will be very considerate of other people's feelings. They'll never want to offend anyone. They will want to always be seen as a peaceful, helpful, hardworking person, and like they have their stuff together. They do have a good sense of duty and responsibility. And with that Aries moon, they're a little bit more driven to, they're not really as ambitious as most Aries moons or Aries sun. But they will be driven to take care of their things and be a little bit more independent than a lot of Tauruses probably are. They will, as a Taurus, they will probably tend to be in a relationship most of the time, but with an Aries moon, it could be a lot more changeable. Oftentimes Tauruses can mate for life, and an Aries moon placement, they might be more of like a serial monogamist, but they definitely will fight. So this is one sign you don't want to mess with, because it's charming and calm and peaceful and lazy as they may seem. They will kick your ass, right? But they also love to sing. This is a sign that loves to sing. They have that confidence of the Aries moon and the action and that energy and that passion, but they got the Taurus, the voice, the throat, and this person can sing, I'm telling you. But all right, so I think that about covers it. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments, and I might do part 2s just to answer the questions when I get through the first 144, probably after I do the synastry 144 too. If you don't know what synastry is, it is relationship compatibility. So we'll be going through what's an Aries like with a Taurus, and maybe even do the 144 times that. That would be great. We have my whole life to do them. All right. So let's start with a Taurus Sun, Aries Moon, Aries Rising. Now this person sort of is going to be similar to the Taurus Sun, Aries Moon in general, but they are going to be a little bit more amplified in the action area. They will be a little bit more outgoing, not quite as reserved, and they might even be a little bit more of a fighter. They might like riding bulls. They might love the rodeo. They could be very active, into sports, and kind of competitive, and they could be quite the opponent, you know. Aries generally tends to like want to be the leader and kind of go their own way and break new ground, but with Aries rising, Taurus Sun, Aries Moon, this person could actually sort of seek out confrontation, seek out, if not straight confrontation, like competition, because that Aries ascendant is kind of aligning with that Aries Moon, and they could live for competition. And they have this strong bull. It could even be someone who's really good at verbal debating, you know. But that could even be with the Gemini rising. So let's move on. Taurus rising, Taurus Sun. Oh, I like to do the dating too. Well, what it would be like to date Aries rising, Taurus Sun, Aries Moon. This is gonna get. It could be quite the adventure. They might court you very actively, very generously in the beginning. You know, Aries is good at starting things, but you better be ready to settle down on the couch and take a few naps, you know. But very affectionate and warm character. All right, so back to Taurus rising, Taurus Sun, Aries Moon. This person would be very warm and affectionate also, but they might not be as pursuant in dating. Since I just went from there, I'll go to there. This person might be a little more Venusian, and you kind of play a hard to get or push and pull, more Taurus games. With the Aries Moon, it could almost be more of an aggressive push and pull or hard to get, where at first you're dating the Taurus and you're real settled and you're real comfy, and this is the person you met because it's their rising and their sun matches, so you're like, yeah, I met you and you're exactly how I thought you would be. This very consistent, very steady person, and then you move in with them, and or you have grown up with them and you know that they have this airy side of them that sort of after you get past the Taurus part where you realize you're never going to change their mind and you agree to disagree, you've got this Aries underneath that's like, you know what, but let's hash that out a little bit more and it'll be fun, you know, and you're like, I'd rather not, and they're like, oh, you don't want to, you know, and so you've got this calm exterior, and and you end up in this little fire pit, like the fireplace. You end up kind of like, how did I get in this? I'm kind of getting burned now, all this earth, you know. And if you are the Taurus rising sun and you have this Aries moon, you might burn yourself sometimes. You might be like, ouch, like I said or did something, and you know, I really just wanted to take it easy, have a nice time, and I kind of, ouch, that kind of hurts, you know. And that could even just go for the sun moon duo as well. So, okay, Gemini rising, Taurus sun, Aries moon is going to be, like I said, with the debating, the Mercury, you add that in with the stubborn Taurus, not the greatest debater, but someone who wants to debate you actively. This is the person who's going to strike up a conversation with you at the bar or wherever, just to basically assert that they almost seem open at first, or like they care to listen, or that they have the ability to interpret what you're saying, because they're very actively engaged in the conversation. But then it'll almost be just to assert the Taurus opinion that they have. So it's like it could be not the easiest personality to deal with unless you have some kind of complementary things going on in the chart. But also Gemini is going to be a little more out there, doing things a little bit more social. And with the Aries moon in the house, this is where it could be a kind of strange dating them, because with the Gemini rising, you meet them, they're real intellectual, very interesting, almost adventurous seeming, and then you get to know them, and really they just want to stay in the house all day. But they could be adventurous as far as whatever their particular interests are, if it's sports or something, like, but they'll have very set interests, which isn't common when you have Gemini in the picture. But it's with Taurus and Gemini, it'll make Taurus a little more active, but mentally they're still going to be pretty stubborn. So it's more going to be where they have like very strong hobbies or interests. So this is going to be like the die-hard sports fanatic, where they don't really go out and do socialize a whole lot. They kind of work and they come home, but they live for that sports team. They live for hunting. They live for whatever their hobby is, and they might only have one or maybe two or three with Gemini, but not a lot of them. And so you might get along with them by going to the sporting activities, or they might even be someone like in the office who really gets into the current competition or trend, and with the Aries backing them up with the drive and the moon placement. And when you live with this person, it's going to be a little bit more like how you thought they were in the beginning, with that chattiness, and you might actually learn that they are a little more level-headed in the household when you get talking to Aries. So could be a very dynamic person with the Gemini, Taurus, Aries going on. This person could be a little more balanced than the other two that that we already discussed. But it's going to be very much about intellect and only on a few subjects, because Taurus isn't really going to be interested in covering a lot of ground. It's just sort of their ground, where it's probably going to be the local sports team. Okay, now moving on to the Cancer rising, Taurus Sun, Aries Moon. With the Cancer rising, this is going to be a very family-oriented person. When you meet them, with the Cancer rising, I might have said moon, they are going to tell you all about their family. And with Taurus, because Taurus can be pretty family oriented too, like they don't move off the couch, so they might have lots of little minions running around, and they might be very involved with the children, sort of like Leo supposedly is, which is interesting, but another topic. So a Cancer rising Taurus is going to be like, oh, look at all my children, and with the Aries moon, it might be pretty fruitful, more fruitful than, say, just the Cancer rising Taurus with another moon, because a lot of action going on at home in the bedroom with Aries and Mars. So this might be the person who has like 5 kids. I don't know. That's just a thought I'm throwing out there. If they only have 2, they might be the person where, oh yeah, all the kids can come over, and they're watching all the cousins and the neighbors' kids. This is just what I'm getting from that, because Aries in the moon at home is very active, and this Cancer rising is all about the home, and Taurus is very fixed and staying in one spot. So this is the kind of placement where the Aries moon might encourage the Taurus Sun to take on a little bit more, and the interest is going to be in the Cancer, which is family. So this is going to be a very active household with a strong family unit, and kind of like the more the merrier, I'm thinking, which probably plays out a few other ways. We'll see as I go through, but that's how I'm thinking this one plays out. Okay, so now we go on to Leo rising, Taurus Sun, Aries Moon, and with this one, it could be also greatly about children, but it might, in the rising placement, Leo is going to need a lot of attention, and you add that to the Venus Taurus Sun, and this is a person who is very much into luxury. This is a little more J-Lo. Like I had said in the last video, it wasn't so J-Lo. This is, this is a person who works hard for what they have, but also has that Leo ability to materialize things in the world. And these are nice things. So this person is very comfortable. And when you almost would see with the double fix, like the Leo rising in the Taurus Sun, you almost would feel like this person just has the world on a platter and doesn't have to lift a finger. So it would almost be surprising to you when you go to their house and you're like, wow, they're really active. They have all these little projects going on. And again, this could be someone who's very much about children too, and they might actually be the ones out there coaching the children's sports teams. But not so much like the more the merrier, a little bit more focused on their children and maybe like the best friends of their children, not so much like the cousins and all that. It's going to be more their unit, but very focused on that. But this could also be someone who's a little self-driven too with the Aries moon. They might be all about status and luxury, and they might be someone who wants to or even has the luxury to live off of somebody else's resources, which we're not really dealing with the 8th house here, but it could be someone who, does sort of have the world on a platter, and their own hobbies either take precedence from the Aries moon, so they're kind of maybe could not even be so much about children because the household is all about them, or it could be someone who just has a lot of hobbies going on in the home and doesn't really need to work, or they kind of have all the luxuries of life. But they could also be very grounded with that double fix going on with the Leo and the Taurus. They could be sort of the pillar of a community. Someone that people not necessarily aspire to be like, but they respect and regard, and kind of maybe like ties a community together. This could be the face of a community, this type of person. All right. Okay, so now we move on to Virgo rising, Taurus Sun, Aries Moon. And what we have with a Virgo rising is someone who's very meticulous, methodical, someone who would compartmentalize and break down these videos 12 to the 3rd. No, my moon's Virgo. So, but you see with a Virgo rising, they're very good at analyzing, talking through ideas, scientific mind, and hard workers. Remember, we talked about that with the rising for double Aries. So when you put this with Taurus, they're both earth signs, but the thing is that Virgo is mutable and Taurus is fixed, so they're very complementary together. But the Virgo rising is going to kind of always be focused on work and their work relationships and draw those in, because this is in the rising placement. And so this is the kind of person who is going to go to work, have great working relationships, go home, veg out, and it's like the Taurus Sun is going to get along great with the Virgo rising out in the world and at work, and then go home and chill and kind of maybe be more stimulated in the home with the Aries moon. So this is someone who, if you know them at work, they're just a hard worker, the Virgo. And the Taurus is steady, slow and steady. So this is someone with the Taurus who could be at the same company for 30 years, and they're known to get the job done, and they're very organized. They could eventually climb the ladder, through promotions and stuff like that. It's not really like so much of a salesperson like a lot of Taurus placements could be, but it's someone who's just a pillar of the company. We said Leo's like rising would be sort of the pillar of the community or the group. A Virgo rising is going to be the pillar at work. And with that, like I said, the Aries moon, this is someone who goes to work every day, does their job, and is real chill. The Taurus just slows them down a little bit, so they, with that Virgo, it's just real complimentary, probably great work environment, great working relationships. Socially, it's going to be probably more about groups or even crafts. It's going to be really organized when they're social. They could be a great host, but their friendships may even tend to be from work. And then they go home, and this is someone who is going to be either kind of active in the home by themselves, because they might need that time. That Aries moon might need a lot of time to themselves after being like so generous and of service out in the world. Or it's someone who could have quite almost like a double life, which happens with mutable signs, but not so much Virgo in the rising. But I almost feel like the personality at home with this person is going to be so different than the person out in the world and at work. Like, they're going to be so humble out in the world, but at home, it kind of goes back to like the double Aries, when I'm like, don't keep your work and play separate. But this person doesn't even need that advice, because they'll already be doing that. They'll be going home, and they might have like a really active sex life that you would have never expected, or they might be like a really adventurous person, like doing, think like Fight Club. They might have some kind of, not secret life, but like real, they might be into like karate. This is like the kind of person where you're like, really? I would never think you're so calm and mild and chill and slow moving. I would never think you were into this like fast-paced activity out at home. It's like their hobbies in the home might be much speedier than you would expect, and I don't know, they could even like remodel the whole house, and they're showing you at work, and you're like, really? You're a lady that can do construction? It's just something like really masculine and off from Virgo, the virgin, like uptight and prudy, but I don't know. That's just my thoughts on this. All right, so now we go on to, wow, it's harder to get through all these than I thought. Virgo, okay, so then we have a Libra rising, Taurus Sun, Aries Moon. Now with a Libra rising and Taurus Sun, I'll say this one's a video, we're in LA and traffic, yeah. All right, with the Libra rising, Taurus Moon, you have Venus playing out doubly here, but you have it playing out in two different ways. So, I mean, they give different, and they give different tags to things, but Libra is a masculine sign and it's air, and Taurus would be like the feminine counterpart, Earth, but they're both ruled by Venus, which is very feminine. So Libra has this feminine component. So when you bring these together, again, like we said before in the last video, Libra rising is a very beautiful looking person, very symmetrical, but it's almost like with a Taurus Sun, it could be someone who's a little bit more vain, because they might be in love with themselves and how they look, and they might at times, I would almost say, be like hyper vigilant about it. But then especially with the Aries Moon, like they might be really driven towards at home doing beauty treatments and stuff like that, trying the latest mask, or even buying up everything at CVS, because with the Aries Moon, this might not be someone who's, and the Taurus Sun, this might not be someone who's going to like go get a facial, but someone who's going to do it at home privately, where they're comfortable with their Aries nature. But Libra, they could get chatty, maybe they could, but Taurus is not as motivated about these things, because they kind of just like to admire beauty and have it around them. So this person could, I feel like, be hyper vigilant at times about their looks, and then at times almost be neglectful of their looks. And then they get home, they could be like really active working on their like ordering products, and like even to shopping, like clothes. This person probably has a ton of freaking clothes, and with that Aries impulsiveness, their closet's probably freaking full of clothes. And Taurus just accumulates things, Taurus Sun, and then you add the Libra rising, who just loves clothes, and then the Aries that loves novelty. This person has a lot of freaking clothes and makeup. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to say this person is just like probably very into the arts. This is the Taurus sign that probably gets out more to plays, and may even be a great actor themselves. Yeah, I'm going to say that this, Taurus rules the voice, so a lot of them are good singers. but with this Aries placement, this could be a great actor because they've got like the endurance and the stamina of Taurus, and then they have the drive of Aries, kind of making them more outgoing, and same with the Libra rising, making them more outgoing. So this is someone who would be very good in the performing arts, a good speaker. This would be a more outgoing Taurus, which with Aries moon, well, the moon's in the home, so I don't really think they're necessarily outgoing. So it would be more on the rising, because the moon of the Aries is activity within the home and emotional life. So yeah, I guess Taurus, no matter where they go with Aries moon, they're going to be more emotional and easily excitable than other Tauruses. But this Libra one's going to be a more outgoing one. Same with the Gemini, which we touched on earlier, but sort of the Gemini is more about thinking and talking, and the Libra is about, oh, I just want to socialize, and I'm a Taurus, so I'm just going to relax. And Aries is like, yeah, whatever, like, want to come to my house and have coffee, you're probably, this is someone who's going to invite you into their home very easily. All right, so let's see. Now we go on to the Scorpio rising, Taurus Sun, Aries Moon. Now, this person, Scorpio and Taurus are opposites. So you have Scorpio in the rising, who's very reserved and very 8th house energies, other people's money. And the 8th house is opposite the 2nd house, which is where Taurus Sun is. This person is going to have the ability to bring in resources for Taurus. So this could be someone who's pretty wealthy, because that Scorpio rising is going to know how to go out there and get the things that Taurus wants. And sort of like how Libra rising will stockpile on clothes, this is someone who's going to stockpile on people and possessions, and then Taurus is sort of going to sit on them. You almost don't want to be a person in this person's life because you almost could feel trapped, because that possessive Scorpio pulled you in, and then Taurus kind of was like sitting on you, and you're like, why am I stuck here, But then you have the Aries moon, so then it gets a little entertaining, because you're like, what's this person got going on? And you might be able to get involved in their projects. So this is someone who's going to really, this would be a good project manager, someone who can bring people in, but also bring in resources. And when they do all of that, they have this Aries energy to really back it up and bring the passion. So all the way through their life, not their life, but their patterns, like the way they are in the world, is going to line up with they're going to have that Taurus energy, like keeping it fixed. So it's like they're bringing in resources, they're stabilizing those resources, and then they've got a lot of energy to back up the idea or the project. And so as long as this person isn't too selfish, because of Taurus and the Aries, this person can be very wealthy and a great producer or project manager. So this is someone you would want to work with if you're trying, especially if you're trying to do things that are a little bit more abstract, or you're doing like a startup. This is someone who's going to stabilize it. A lot of businesses, they don't make it through the first, few years. And this is someone, the type of personality that could really help give something stability that doesn't have it, that personality. Or they can do it on their own, because Scorpio is pretty independent, and they've got the Aries moon backing them up. So when they go home, they don't maybe need as much support. Like everyone at home could be like not interested in what they're doing or not supporting them emotionally, and they are able to see it through regardless of what's going on in their personal life. All right, so now we have Scorpio, and this personality could also make a great performing artist as well. So you got the voice with the Taurus. Scorpio and Taurus have the endurance, a lot of like just support in the personality. not too self-conscious. And then that's just that Aries fire churning underneath. All right, so Scorpio, Sagittarius rising, Taurus Sun, Aries Moon. Now, Sagittarius rising with a Taurus Sun. This is interesting. I have to think about this for a second. Sagittarius rising would be Jupiter and Venus. I'm feeling like this isn't a combination you're going to see very often. This person will love to travel, like all Sagittarius rising signs, and they'll be into higher education. They actually may end up being professors. Hold on. Because Taurus is fixed and it kind of tends to stay within its realm of knowledge, and then you add Jupiter, higher education, this could be a person that's a specialist in an area. They could be like a professor who only specializes but very well in one thing. And at home, they're just going to have this Aries energy going on. It's almost going to be separate from their life, because they're going to be so active in the Sagittarius realm, out and being social, and then they're going to come home, or they're going to go out and be their personality is the Taurus, which needs to recharge with that kind of rising out in the world that's got so much energy going on. So they are in the home. I almost feel like they're not going to see, you're not going to see, this person who has this placement is barely ever going to see their Aries moon. They're going to have that push, that push from it, but they're never going to, when they're home, they're going to be so recharging their batteries from being a Sagittarius out in the world that Taurus sun is really going to have to recharge. And so that Aries moon, they're only going to see that like on the weekends when they're doing laundry, or maybe when they're cooking dinner. Aries moon's going to like push them through. But they're going to be out in the world just a lot more than a normal Taurus with the Sagittarius rising. And the Aries is going to give, Taurus does have endurance, but the Aries is going to give the energy. But this person's going to be tired a lot at home, because they're going to be out working their butt off and moving around a lot and learning a lot, and it's just going to be, they will be able to sustain with that Taurus endurance, like I said, but they're going to be tired when they get home. And yeah, they might not, if they have like a fire, because this person might have a hard time dating too, because they have the Sagittarius rising, this Aries, which will get along with fire, but you're just going to keep exhausting this Taurus sun. So I'm trying to think, it's almost like they need a little water in their life, like a Pisces. This might be, like, Sagittarius and Pisces aren't really a common, I don't really recommend that, but this might be someone who needs a Pisces just to like soothe the Taurus. Yeah, because if you give them any air, they're going to be even more tired. So this would be a tough placement to have. I would be curious if anybody has this Sagittarius rising, Taurus sun, and Aries moon. Like, leave a comment. I want to know how your day-to-day life is and how your personality plays out with your ambitions, and how when you see your Aries side of yourself, does it come? It's almost like you might conjure more Aries through your rising here. It's interesting. I don't know. All right, so Sagittarius. So we're getting there. Capricorn rising, Taurus sun, Aries moon. Now, Capricorn rising is going, like I said in the last video with the double Aries, Capricorn rising is going to be a little pretentious and reserved, and this can go very complementary with Taurus. So it's almost like the opposite of with the Sagittarius rising kind of wearing out our Taurus sun. The Capricorn rising is going to be protective of the Taurus sun, and almost in the way that Scorpio rising brings resources to Taurus. Capricorn rising is going to be stockpiling for Taurus. They're going to be saving for retirement. This Taurus is going to have nice things, but they are going to probably appreciate those nice things more than your average Taurus, because Saturn is kind of withholding from them and making them really put in the effort in the world. And so this is one Taurus that is really going to appreciate the luxury, where a lot of Taurus it's just kind of too easy for them and they expect luxury and comfort. Not saying they don't work for it or save, but they will appreciate it more with Capricorn rising, and they'll work harder for it, and it will actually take them longer to achieve. And with the Aries moon, this is sort of kind of like the double Taurus again. This is the person where Capricorn is a cardinal like Aries, so they're not going to be as different at home as you think, even though Capricorn and Aries are obviously different. This is someone who's going to be very engaging. You probably will meet them in career working, because they're going to be climbing the corporate ladder. But then they're going to invite you to come over and hang out, because Taurus is kind of more likely to invite you in the home, like Cancer. And you're going to get there, and the Aries part of them, it's kind of sort of going to line up with Capricorn, but in a different way than you thought. So you're going to go, oh, you're how I thought you'd be, and you're very down to earth. And now that I got past how reserved you are, I think with this placement, the Aries still, it's not going to be super loud. And it's almost like when you move in with this person, when you might see the Aries. Aries Sun in itself can be not quite as like outgoing as you would think. With the Capricorn, it's like someone you're not really gonna know well unless you have like earth signs in your chart, or you happen to have Aries moon or Aries sun, because somehow this very reserved Capricorn personality is going to feel like a natural affinity to you. So it won't be so much that most people will ever see this Aries moon side of this character. It's sort of like going to be too under the surface here. But if you're an Aries or an Aries moon, you might really relate and warm up to this character. All right. So, or if you're a Taurus, but like I said, earth signs are probably going to be who this person feels more comfortable with, or even water a little bit. Oh, right. So now we're on to Aquarius rising, Taurus sun, Aries moon. Now, with Aquarius rising, what we're going to see is you have a person who loves to talk to people, who really cares about people, but only, out in the world. At home, they are very detached. And the thing is that Aquarius is also fixed in Taurus, just like Leo, how I mentioned earlier. So this is a person that may always be there to talk to, but it's kind of strange, because you could probably talk to this person for hours. This person will love to talk to people and interact, but then at the same time, you could reach out to them sometimes and they don't want to talk at all. They're like in their little Taurus world at home. And with the Aries moon, again, I feel like it would be a little overshadowed here, because it's so separate from the Aquarius rising in the world. So then you get home, and I feel like the Aquarius, like I had mentioned last video, will kind of balance out the Aries moon. So this Aries moon person is not going to be as argumentative with the Aquarius rising. And then you have the Taurus and the fixed nature of Taurus and the fixed nature of Aquarius. So this is a person who is going to be, the Taurus is going to be able to like secure financial matters and stuff a little bit better for that Aquarius rising than other Aquarius rising people or signs. So this is a nice balance here, because you have Aquarius is going out in the world, being social, caring about social causes, caring about the greater good, thinking of ideas that are very expansive, and then they come to their center. Their personality is Taurus. It's also fixed, so they're grounded, but they're almost not as stubborn as a normal Taurus. They're a little more go with the flow, but they're kind of more detached than a normal Taurus too. Tauruses kind of tend to do their own thing and stay within their group a little bit. So this Taurus Sun is going to be a little bit more outgoing with Aquarius, but they're also going to kind of how Cancer is there for their circle at all times. Taurus can kind of be like that too, unless they're taking a nap. So this one might have a tendency, this person, you might, if it's you might detach a little bit more like Aquarius and go off in your own, not imagination so much, but like inventiveness. And sometimes you have to detach from people, but at the same time you'll be more social too than the average Taurus. So, and then you add the Aries Moon under there. If that Aries Moon and that Aquarius get together, it's not going to exhaust the Taurus Sun as much as that Sagittarius rising will, but it could be a pretty formidable force and creative, and it's pretty harmonious. This person, even though they have this intense energy with Aquarius and Aries, and even like that stubbornness of Taurus, this person's going to have like a nice flow, a very dynamic personality. So I think they're going to be someone who's pretty sure of themselves, but not like in an arrogant way, just very confident. Not even like confident, because they don't really need to be, just there's going to be no self-consciousness in this person. They have that confidence of the Aries. They have sort of just, they're just, this probably could be one of a Taurus that isn't as stubborn, and the Aquarius will have the ability to detach and go in with the Taurus. So it's real complementary. So with the Pisces rising, we have, with the Taurus Sun, we have someone who is going to be very romantic, and because they're both very romantic signs and very sentimental. But Pisces could tend to live in sort of a dream world, and when their expectations aren't met, they could be a little bit I forget the word, but they could be become almost like critical, almost like their opposite, Virgo. So it could be. So the good thing though is with the Taurus Sun, there is romance already, and Taurus could quite live up to Pisces' projection of romance on the world. Taurus could definitely embody that. So this person is probably going to be very sentimental, very romantic, pretty good with money. They'll kind of keep that Venus tendency with Taurus Sun to, want nice things. They'll kind of keep that nicely balanced. They'll have a good taste. They might be able to find some really good finds. And when you add the Aries Moon into this, it's sort of like it's been for a lot of these rising signs with Taurus Sun. Aries and this with Taurus Sun, if it's not in an excitable place where it's going to be combative and competitive, and it's got like a smoother sort of rising going on, it's more of just like an engine, like the fire, like a coal fire in a train, just keeping the engine burning. It's just that Mars action, energy, passion. And so I don't see, Pisces could be pretty creative, so you might see some of the Aries Moon help to fuel that, and Pisces rising might be able to channel some of that Aries Moon energy. And around the house, Pisces might put a little more energy into their creative vision. This is going to be a person who, with any Pisces rising, Pisces in other placements can be pretty psychic, or even Cancer, the moon, but this Pisces is just going to be very intuitive about people. And Taurus Sun isn't really particularly interested in intuition, and not even always. They might find the social aspects of astrology interesting, and some Tauruses might be into it, but overall Tauruses, they're just more material. Venus is more the material plane, so they're not as into spirituality. But the type of Taurus Sun that might be more into that is one with like a Pisces rising or a Pisces moon. So you're going to find with this Aries moon, Aries love astrology usually too, but with this Pisces moon, you might find sort of more down-to-earth Taurus with, you know, sort of a goal-driven home life. So maybe they're planning the family's vacation and stuff like that with the Aries moon, and they're chilling on the couch, saving up their money, their nice luxury couch, with the Taurus Sun. But with the Pisces, they'll just have this like weird intuition. It will be sort of like they don't really know how to explain it, and it's not really deep, but they kind of just knew to buy the ticket then, and it was 50% off, or because they do have a little bit of a good discernment with money too with this placement. So they'll just kind of have like not so much luck like Jupiter or Sagittarius, but just like a good intuition. They'll just, you know, how did you know that? And Pisces isn't always too clear about things either, so they might not be able to explain it to you, but they'll just know certain things, and they won't read too far into it because it is in the rising placement. So I think that this concludes our 12 ascendant signs for our Taurus Sun Aries Moon. And I want to also say that our app is coming out soon, and I'm waiting for it right now to be published on Android, and it will be coming out on Apple iOS very soon as well, Rotation 411. Again, if you ever want to ask me anything personally to really analyze your chart, then go ahead and go over to rotation411.com, and I would love to chat with you, or you can order up one of my astrology readings. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you might like to skip around, and that's great to find your particular placement or whoever you're looking up, but do know that I go back and forth throughout the videos and remember things or think of things. So if you do have someone with the sun and moon, it might be good to watch it all the way through to see the other ascendants, because I do sometimes kind of check back in on the others. But I think that this concludes my videos for the evening, and tomorrow I will be back with Gemini Sun, Aries Moon.